As a human experience designer, I spend my life auditing friction, searching for it, looking for it, trying to fix and optimize. I look at the interfaces, digital and physical, and I ask, where is the user getting stuck? Why are they dropping off? What is their frustration? How can I satisfy them? How can I keep them in the loop for their satisfaction, for their needs? What is their frustration? But lately, I've had to turn that same lens inward. I've had to UX my own experience. And I can't say that it's not kind of frustrating and revealing at the same time. I'm 25 hours into Assassin's Creed Origins. You could say I'm 6 years into Assassin's Creed Origins, but only 25 hours. Logically, I should be completely hooked and consumed. I love everything about Egypt. I'm a bit obsessed with Egypt. And yet I find myself staring at that map, occasionally confused, occasionally surprised. But not really just surprised about the game itself and about the world and about my time traveling into ancient Egypt. There's a niggling problem, and it's a pattern. I found myself glancing at my shelf at titles like Returnal and more recently Saros, Resident Evil Requiem, FC26. I've hit a complete user drop-off, and it frustrates me. I don't know why it happens. I mean, is this a design flaw in the game itself? Is this a flaw in the game retention loop? Is this a Ubisoft issue? Or is it a bug in my own cognitive processing? In other words, is this a Ubisoft issue or is it a me issue? Damn. I look back at 2020, very painful, difficult, and yet life-transforming time for me. During that period when the entire world went into mad lockdown and we didn't know if we're living in the period of The Last of Us and if we would ever come out of that, or if it was going to be a springboard for something better. Most of us had so many different struggles and troubles, and I was not omitted from that. I had probably 8 to 10 months of redundancy during the COVID lockdowns. For the first time, I had a total surplus of cognitive bandwidth. I could do anything I wanted. But of course, I was mourning the fact that I had lost a job that I really did enjoy, and I was building a long-term career as an e-learning developer. I was, for all intents, I was happy. But I had time. I finally had time to play, time to revel in the hobby that I've always been a part of. I kind of became a bit more hardcore by accident. I still see myself as a casual gamer. So I became a pro at being an active and consistent gamer. I tried everything in my library because I kept buying games all those years on deep discount, usually some $5, some $7 on PSN sales. But I just never really had time to really play them. 1 or 2 full price games I had. I ended up during that COVID period being able to actually sink 80 plus hours into single narrative games without even blinking from start to finish. I remember I did a marathon of the Uncharted, it's not a trilogy, all the Uncharted games, right? I did a marathon of all of them back to back to back. The Tomb Raider games, the Definitive Edition, back to back to back. I played so many games back to back to back, so many new series, well, old series that were technically new for me because I didn't have the time before. I had been able to successfully train my brain to treat gaming as work, but I was not getting paid for it, obviously, but I think it felt good. I can never go back to that time, and I actually never want to go back to that time, but it was an important time in my life to ground me, to actually let me enjoy the hobby more and bring passion back. It was a lot of fun. It was my way of coming out of a dark time, and through gaming I was able to even read my fantasy books a bit more. But through gaming I was able to find some peace when the entire world really was in turmoil, and I didn't know if I would have a future. Things worked out anyway. But here is the pattern, and perhaps also the problem. The games, almost all the games, 90% of the games I love are almost all mentally and emotionally tasking. They always demand attention, lots of character analysis, never skipping any of the cutscenes, the cinematics, a lot of focus on that as well, watching for the nuances, watching for the animations, right? The depth that we're seeing in the faces of even the NPCs and the way they behave and the clues that they leave. Those are the sort of things that I enjoy. That's my jam. I just like games that pull me in so seriously, that involve a lot of high stakes decision making, not necessarily full RPGs, but in some instances the action RPGs are actually quite deep in their storytelling abilities. In my line of work, I'm so focused on optimizing everything for the user. I'm so focused on trying to solve the problem, to actually ensure that the user journey and the maps that they follow is clear, clean and pristine, and they don't have to think twice before completing their tasks, basically achieving their goals. And when I look within now, I realize that in my own life, in my own hobbies, and especially gaming more than anything else, I've actually emulated the relaxation from my vocabulary. Gaming is meant to sometimes be fun, but it's meant to impact you. Mostly fun, but Last of Us Part 2 as an example was never fun. Horrific experience, but I don't know why I really just love everything about that game. Horrific experience. So I no longer relax. But I want to relax. I want to get back from work and just chill and play a game that I want to pull me in the same way that Clear Obscure Expedition 33 pulled me in and took over my life. That's what I want. Ghost of Tsushima did the same thing also. That's what I want. Uncharted Lost Legacy did a bit of that. Last of Us 1 and 2 did a lot of that. I'm stressed in my mind in the way that I work and what I'm trying to solve, complex issues every single day that affect humans at multiple levels, right? And then I come home and I find that even though I'm trying to relax, I don't play to unwind. I'm actually playing games to process my day. And when you're already managing a business, a side business, when you're already managing a depth of work for 1,000 people organizations, and when you also have a family, you've got a wife, you've got children that you choose to spend time with consistently, and you make about 1 to 2 hours sometimes a night, mostly 1 hour, but sometimes 2 hours a night to play a game. Most people should just play games that just relax them, like you're lying in a bathtub. But for some freaking reason, my entire collection, probably 80 to 90% of my collection, are just deep, solid games that pull you in, and you really need to pay attention to everything you're doing. Why do I do this to myself? Why do I really do this to myself? I don't get it. The human brain can only process so much information at the same time. I don't know how much RAM we have in our brains. I'm not a scientist, but I have a feeling that my cache is full and I'm probably overeating every single time I'm playing. I've noticed the pattern, and it's not just in Assassin's Creed Origins. It happened in every single game I really love. It almost happened in in clear obscure as well, but that was way too much for it to actually happen. But whenever I get close to the 20-hour mark, 15 to 20-hour mark in any game I'm playing, I start to want to wander away. And the funny thing is, it's not because I'm bored. Maybe I'm trying to postpone something, but it's not because I'm bored. I think it's because maybe it's the cognitive load of maintaining the emotional connection with that world, with those characters, on top of the real world workload. It's causing a bit of a system crash in me. I think my brain is just not able to handle wanting to complete and wanting to stay in those worlds. I really think there's something here. The fact that, for instance, in Assassin's Creed Origins, this will sound a bit weird to some people, but when I'm walking around, especially when I'm walking in the desert areas, I can smell the air. I can actually feel the dust. It's weird, but it happens to me all the time. And then I don't want to leave that world, but I also don't want to complete the game. Sometimes, like, I don't want to get to the credits. I don't want to get to maybe the second act to the third act. I just pull away and like I'll come back to it later. Doesn't seem logical, but I do it all the time. I've got a few friends who have been diagnosed with ADHD, and at work I've got a few people that I speak with who actually do have ADHD, some diagnosed, some not. And I know I share similar traits, similar behaviors, similar patterns. I've never been diagnosed, but I really start to suspect that maybe there's some ADHD in me as well, because being a UX designer is not the first job I've had that I've stayed in for a number of years. I've always worked in design, but I've gone through all the areas of design. Every single section of design, I've gone through all of it to try to be a bit more, it's kind of just weird. I'm doing the same thing with games right now. I think when the load, the mental and emotional load gets a bit heavy in one story, instead of pushing through, I found that the pattern is I choose to pivot away from that story, away from that experience, away from that commitment. Funny thing is, the only thing I've ever been able to be completely committed to is my marriage. That is crazy, but I'm happy that that's one thing that 100% commitment never wavered. I easily jump into FC26. I love playing football games, soccer, not American football. I love playing them, and I've played them basically all of my youth, all of my adult years. I buy it every single year. Maybe I get a quick hit of dopamine from that. I don't really like roguelikes. There's only been 3 roguelikes I think I've maybe get into, and that's Hades, Returnal, and recently Saros. 3 games I don't know if I'll ever get to see the end credits, because I'm just not that great at them, but they are fun. Hades is a lot easier, but it's just a loop. That loop is just not for me. I want to progress, but maybe playing games like FC and just having 1 or 2 matches and being able to get the dopamine, whether I win, lose, or draw, it's interesting that I can just play for a few minutes and know, yep, I've played a game today. But for Returnal, and Saros more recently, 20 to 30 minute run, whether I die or not, whether I complete that run or not, whether I complete that biome or not, doesn't really matter. I find satisfaction. It's good. It's like a sort of a warm handoff that I go through during that process. I've left one intense stimulus and picked up another, because my brain probably just lost the capacity to sit still in the desert. I don't know if some of you experience similar things, but I'd like to find out if you do. I'd like to hear from you if you have weird gaming patterns like myself. Non-committal gaming. Insane. So I have a question. How do we redesign this experience? Do you think the answer is to force the commitment and just push through? I know some people do one game at a time. That philosophy, I think the first time I heard someone say that was MBG, probably 3 or 4 years ago, is I only play one game at a time, and I saw it as weird because I was never like that. I could swap between games. It's why I went from physical games to digital games at some point, because I could easily just swap between games. Just I've played this mission, I'm done, I just want to jump into something else. So seriously, how do we solve this problem? Is it my job to redesign the experience? Do I just force the commitment to play that game through? Or do I accept that maybe it's a stage of life issue? I mean, at this stage of my life, I'm doing so many different things. I'm entering the latter part of my 40th decade of living. I've got responsibilities with my kids. I will always prioritize and spend time with my children more than anything else, right? I would always stop a game if my daughter needs my attention. I would always put off the TV if my son needs my attention. And I do the same with my wife as well. So maybe there's something there. Maybe I just have to accept. Maybe those of us that are like just have to accept that, look, my user journey, my gamer journey is not ending, but it's changed. Maybe that non-committal gaming is probably fine. I do not know. But I want to actually complete the sort of games that I choose to play. I know it's okay to actually have a game, to play a game in a fragmented way. For instance, and I'll use Saros as an example again. I love the save state feature that it has. You shut it down and you come back to it, you're going to continue from where you are. I love that feature. I wish Souls games had that. If they had that, I think someone like me will play 20-30 minute sessions and just wants to go away, would need to enjoy Souls games a bit more. It's a simple feature. I just wish most of them had it. It allows me to actually not get my way through these games. You know, the funny thing is, maybe finishing a game isn't the metric for success, at least for me. I've got mutuals and friends who are crazy about platinums. I hate trophies. Completely hate them. I don't even like seeing them. They're not necessary as far as I am concerned. But that's a me issue. I don't know if the real challenge is learning how to just let a game be like a snack. Like a lemon tree in the backyard that I don't have to always go to, but I'm happy it's there. So, you know, maybe it's just something for me to tend to slowly rather than another deadline to try to meet. What do you guys think? Are you gonna help me out here and tell me your stories? Maybe I can fix this problem. I'll talk to you all in the next episode, but let me see you in the comments. Thank you.